And the star of Dirty Grandpa, Robert De Niro, getting censored by The View after raging like a bull who saw a red MAGA hat.
And they might think that it's going to make their life better, or they just want to, excuse my French, it's almost like he wants to do the worst that he could possibly do to show this country.
There was a time when Robert De Niro could step into a room and the whole atmosphere seemed to tighten instantly. One look, one pause, one small tilt of the head, and that was enough to command attention. He did not need to raise his voice. He did not need to force the moment. He felt like the calm before the storm. But somewhere along the way, between the awards, the applause, and the long stretches of praise, something seemed to shift. The legend, as some fans described it, started to lose a bit of its shine, and the old mystique began to fade. The actor who once seemed to speak volumes without saying much was now being talked about in a very different way. Then one night, under the cool studio lights, Greg Gutfeld leaned back in his chair, wore a quiet smirk, and said almost nothing at all. And that near silence, oddly enough, landed harder than a full speech could have.
De Niro graced the knitting circle in hell known as The View, where he tried to link random thoughts into a sentence. Joy was there to wind him up, since he's played some of the most unredeemable characters.
You have played some of the most really unredeemable characters. Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle was a psychopathic taxi driver. Jake LaMotta, who used to beat his wife, and he was in The Raging Bull. Is Trump worse than they are?
To me, he is. He has no understanding that I can see of the outside.
De Niro did not lose his talent, according to this wave of online commentary. What changed, some viewers argue, was his energy. The cool, controlled, intimidating calm that made him feel untouchable for decades has, in their view, been replaced by something louder, messier, and a lot more awkward. He used to be the kind of presence who could make you tense up with one word. Now, critics online say he can come across like someone delivering 6 paragraphs into a microphone that never even asked for them. And the internet absolutely noticed. Some viewers say that is not just aging. It looks more like a brand slipping in real time.
De Niro kind of represents Hollywood in the sense that they realize that they're losing influence with the public, and that's what's generating the emotional response. They've never felt less important.
It just, doesn't it feel like 2016 again? Like, we lived through that. Did they forget?
Yeah.
It also feels like they forgot that. And remember, just this week, we had Kamala Harris dropping the F-bomb at a group.
And then Gutfeld stepped in. No dramatic entrance, no booming music, no big setup. Just a man with a smirk, and what felt like a folder full of receipts. While De Niro was, in the eyes of some viewers, making himself a bigger talking point across cable TV, Gutfeld came in with a small glass of water and a very large mirror. He did not launch into direct attacks. He did not need to. He simply described what people were already talking about, and somehow that kind of plain-spoken commentary ended up landing harder than any scripted insult could have. When a moment practically writes itself, all you need is timing. And Gutfeld's timing, as critics and supporters alike noted online, was sharp, controlled, and almost surgical. And that is what made the whole thing stick, because this was not just about one clip or one sharp remark. It was about a bigger shift in how people are reading the moment. Online, some viewers were not treating it like a simple disagreement. They were seeing it as a sign that the old rules around celebrity presence do not carry the same weight anymore. That is why the reactions spread so quickly. Once a public figure starts becoming the joke instead of the voice of authority, the internet tends to run with it. Supporters may push back, critics may pile on, and everyone else keeps replaying the same few seconds looking for the exact moment the tone changed. So when Gutfeld's comment landed, it did more than just get attention. It fit into an already building conversation about image, timing, and how fast a carefully built persona can be reshaped by a single night of commentary. And in that space, even a small reaction can feel a lot bigger than it looks at first.
Robert De Niro's 29-year-old child is transgender. When the press asked her for comment, she said, "You talking to they, them?" Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
But here's where it starts to feel a little strange, because Gutfeld did not take the easy route. He did not go after the films. He did not turn it into a long political pylon. Instead, he shifted to something more unexpected. He pointed to the body language, the slight hand tremor that some viewers read as frustration, the lean-in that once carried menace and now, in their eyes, felt more like, I lost my place. The pause that once seemed intense now came off to some as, where did I put my notes? And once people noticed it, they could not really stop seeing it. That is the trap. Gutfeld did not exactly roast De Niro, he seemed to recut the whole image. And that new version hit a lot harder than people expected.
Worry that if he were to win again, and I'm not saying this like it's such a far-fetched notion, if he were to win again, that he would not give up power?
You know he won't. You know he won't. He even said it. He's never going to give it up. And anybody who deludes themselves in thinking that he is.
And then Gutfeld did the unexpected. He brought up Dirty Grandpa. Yes, that movie. The one that even some De Niro fans seem to leave off the highlight reel. The same man who powered Raging Bull became Vito Corleone and turned Travis Bickle into a cultural landmark. Also spent part of his later career as the conversation went online, stumbling through a beach setting in a Hawaiian shirt for a paycheck. Gutfeld did not even need to pile on. He simply said the title out loud, and the silence that followed seemed to do the heavy lifting. Because once that title's in the room, every serious rant De Niro gives afterward can start to sound, at least to critics online, like a man delivering philosophy in flip-flops.
Trump.
Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture. And the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O. Or that he won a $10 scratch-off.
That is when things started to spiral in a way that had online commenters talking. Because at some point, the intensity De Niro once played on screen began to be discussed as something larger in his public image. The character seemed to swallow the actor, the mask started to blur with the face, and now each appearance can feel to some viewers less like a normal interview and more like a tense scene where reality itself is barely holding steady. He does not simply show up at events. According to that commentary, he seems to charge into them. He does not just answer questions, critics say. He seems to snap near them. And Gutfeld sits back through all of it, with the calm of a man who knows he does not have to throw the first punch, because the other side already looks like it is swinging at the air. And that is exactly why the reaction kept growing, because once that kind of image starts circulating, people do not just hear the words, they start reading the entire performance around them. Every pause, every glance, every small shift in posture gets picked apart, like it is part of a bigger message, even when the claim is still just internet interpretation. That is what made this moment so sticky online. It was not only the joke, or the timing, or the title he dropped. It was the way all of it seemed to land in the middle of a larger conversation about age, authority, and whether a once dominant presence can still control the room the same way. Some viewers saw confidence, others saw strain. And once those two readings collide, the discussion tends to take on a life of its own. So the clip keeps getting replayed, not because people think they have every answer, but because they think it says something bigger about how public image can shift in real time. One comment, one reaction, one carefully chosen line, and suddenly the whole conversation around a celebrity can look different than it did the day before. That is the part people cannot seem to shake.
His rise coincides with De Niro's decline. And the person who knows it most is De Niro. He's a fine example of how not to turn loss into bitterness. There are plenty of people who don't like Trump, but don't let it warp their minds or their ability to speak aloud among grown-ups for The View. But the shifts in De Niro's of the world are emotionally damaged by politics to a point where they can't even assess their own emotions. Being an actor is tough. For how does one handle real life without a script? Not equipped to think analytically, you're left powerless when observing your own predictions about life turn out wrong. It's not supposed to be this way, De Niro thinks. Only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have...
But that was not even the strangest part. What made people really stop and stare, according to online chatter, is the idea that De Niro has somehow become a self-appointed emotional referee for the country, almost like a public morality watchdog nobody voted for. And that irony did not go unnoticed, because he built his career playing gangsters, cheaters, hitmen, and con men, only to now be seen by critics as lecturing everyone else on virtue from a balcony most people cannot even imagine affording. And Gutfeld did not need to spell out the contradiction. He just let the comparison sit there. Old clip, De Niro walking into a casino robbery scene. New clip, De Niro dressing down the audience. Same man, same pointed finger. But to viewers online, it felt like two completely different worlds.
Understanding that I can see of the outside world other than anything around him. He has no idea of what his purpose in life is as the president should be, and that is to pull the country together, to be for the people, to heal wounds, not to open them up and pour salt on them.
De Niro clearly has thought about this, more so than his career. His choice of roles is now down to cinnamon and lobster. He was then asked about the Trump kids. At least he doesn't want my kids to take this the wrong way.
And then the internet seemed to notice something else. That is the dangerous turn. Because when fans stop arguing and start grieving, the conversation is no longer just a controversy. It starts to feel like a memorial. People were not typing, "I hate him." They were saying, "I miss him." That lands differently because anger keeps someone in the spotlight, but pity can change the whole mood around them. And Gutfeld seemed to catch that shift right away. He eased off the jokes and started narrating it like a nature documentary, watching a once powerful figure pace in circles inside a cage. It may have helped build for itself.
And they don't like most of the Trump voters because they are Americans. And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid. That then when he goes, impeachment will make America great again, and everybody, how intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled simple.
But the next clip changed the mood completely, because in one segment, Gutfeld did something that felt almost harsh in how restrained it was. He did not laugh, and he did not even really smirk. He just looked straight into the camera and said the quiet part out loud, suggesting that maybe the outrage was not really about politics at all. Maybe, he implied, it was fear. Fear of becoming irrelevant, fear of silence, fear of being remembered as a legend in a world that has already moved on to the next big name. And all of a sudden, the joke did not feel funny anymore. It felt uneasy, because Gutfeld was not just taking a swing at a Hollywood star. To some viewers, he was framing it like a human problem, and nobody seemed ready for that kind of turn. And that is what made the whole thing hit harder online, because once a clip gets framed that way, every small reaction starts to feel loaded. People are no longer just watching a joke or a comment. They are watching for the meaning underneath it, trying to figure out whether the camera caught a real shift or just a moment being read too far by the internet. That kind of discussion can stretch far beyond the original clip. One side keeps treating it like proof that the old image no longer holds up, while others push back and say the reaction is being blown out of proportion. But either way, the conversation stays alive because it taps into something bigger than one celebrity or one segment. It becomes about what happens when a public figure is seen through the lens of changing expectations and how fast admiration can turn into debate. So the story keeps moving, not because there is one clear answer, but because the reaction itself has become part of the spectacle. Once that happens, even silence starts to sound like a statement.
De Niro thinks only the cool guys get to win. Sorry, Bob. That's only in the movies, but at least you'll always have joy. When dislike is so emotional, Katie, I always think it means something else. Like he's actually thought about this. Like, he's like, it's in his head. And I can't help but think it's because they're of similar age and they're both New Yorkers.
And what happened after that was even stranger, because instead of pulling back, De Niro seemed to lean even further into the spotlight. More outbursts, more finger-wagging, more speeches that reportedly began with real passion, and then wandered off in a direction nobody quite expected. According to online reaction, producers started getting nervous, co-stars seemed to keep their distance, and interviewers were probably hoping for a commercial break. Every time someone tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, he appeared to double down, like someone convinced the whole room was locked in on him, while everyone else was quietly checking their phones. That does not look like a breakdown, at least not in the way people are describing it online. It looks more like a breakdown being performed in real time, unfiltered, and powered by ego.
It's the wrong way, but if my kids did what these kids did, I wouldn't want to be related to them. I would disown them.
Whoa, this is sad. Here you have someone pretending to be a tough guy turn out to be just a second banana for Joy Behar, the poster child for Trump derangement. Sadly, Bob is now just another gibbering, enfeebled ninny, surrounded by inept relatives as he frets about how Trump's in power.
And here is the line that is probably going to sting the most. He could have walked away and left the building looking untouched, untouchable, almost mythical. He could have stayed the icon who stepped out at his peak, the legend that never had to explain himself or defend anything. Instead, he kept choosing the microphone, the rant, and the anger, and every time he leans into that again, online observers say he chips away at the image he spent 50 years building. Gutfeld did not shatter that image, at least not in the way people are framing it online. De Niro, according to that reaction, seems to be doing it himself, slowly, loudly, and right there on camera. And the saddest part, some viewers say, is that he may be mistaking the sound of criticism for applause.
Richard, when the other team, let's say your team, grabs clips of, say, from The Five or Sean Hannity or Jesse's show, they could say we're wrong, but they can't say they're acting crazy. Like, we have fun. But why is it on the other side, let's say the MSNBC, the CNN, the View side, when they actually appear like they have psychological issues, that this stuff is so ingrained, this Trump derangement, that they are mentally ill? De Niro clearly is having problems. His therapist is getting paid a lot.
So this is where things seem to land. Gutfeld did not come out ahead because he was shouting the loudest. He came out ahead because he did not get pulled into the same spiral. While De Niro, as online critics put it, kept turning the moment into a pile of raw emotion, Gutfeld stayed at a distance with that same dry smirk, almost like he knew exactly how long it takes for someone to talk themselves down from their own image. This did not feel like a simple takedown. It felt more like a slow-motion view of a legend fading in public, one comment at a time, while the quieter voice just kept the camera rolling. And maybe that is the bigger takeaway hiding under all the noise. In a world that rewards volume, the loudest voice does not always come out on top. The calmest one often does. If this breakdown made you think twice about the whole moment, like subscribe, share, and comment your take, and I will see you on the next one.